Hello everybody, my name is Danielle Fopp and I will be taking you through today's lecture on strategic appraisal. So why do we need to review non-financial factors of a project? Well, records and forecasts of profitability and costs are not sufficient for the guidance of management in planning and allocation of resources in construction. We need to supplement and support this financial analysis with a variety of other qualitative and quantitative considerations. One of these non-financial techniques for appraisal is the strategic appraisal, or sometimes what is often called strategic analysis. The main reason we are looking to supplement the economic and financial appraisal is that, when reviewed alone, the financial analysis does not provide enough insight into the underlying dynamics and balance of the company's individual business sectors. Worldwide inflation has severely weakened the validity and credibility of some financial forecasts, particularly in the construction sector, where steel prices, fuel prices, etc. can also rise dramatically overnight. Financial analysis alone will not provide a systematic explanation for why one business sector has more favourable prospects than another, or why the company's position in a particular sector is strong or weak. And this is where strategic appraisal comes in. So let's start with a definition. Strategic appraisal refers to the process of conducting research on a company and its operating environment to formulate a strategy. The definition of strategic appraisal may differ from an academic or business perspective, but the process involves several common factors which we will discuss in this topic. The need to take the strategic appraisal and strategic aspects of a project into account is incredibly important. Without this appraisal, it would be difficult to define if a project is good or bad. What may be appropriate for one company may not be appropriate for another. So when do we complete a strategic analysis? Well, like a lot of the appraisals, it is at the preliminary analysis phase of the appraisal, and it is completed by senior staff. And this is a requirement because there needs to be an understanding of what strategy is, what the company's strategies are, and an ability to assess risk, which we will touch on briefly in a second. How is it completed? Well, there could be a potential strategy panel. You might utilize risk assessment tools, which we will touch on in a second, SWOT and DPM. But overall, it's really a long-term overriding strategic perspective for the project, which is set up in the front end phase of the appraisal. Strategic planning is advantageous both in projects and in organisations generally, but one of its prime goals is to attain structured and effective management and ensure that decision makers at various levels are all making decisions to pull the company and pull the project in the same direction. So really, the strategic appraisal is making sure that the construction project is in line with the common long-term goals of the company, and we need to be having this in our minds while making these decisions. Just touch on SWOT analysis briefly for those of you who haven't heard this one before. SWOT analysis refers to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and it's a form of strategic appraisal which you may have touched on in your other courses, but we will be looking into this a little bit further. So in summary, we really want to ask the question, does the project align with the strategic objectives of the company? And some of the key issues that we might see in our strategic appraisal will be obviously the strategy, synergy, and risk of project in compared to risk of company. And what sort of risks are we talking about? Things like fragmentation of the business, if you're pulling the business in too many different directions, not using the company's best capabilities if you're going after projects where you don't have strengths in your personnel, duplication of work, are you doubling up, reinventing the wheel when you don't need to, inconsistency, or too much work in one specific area, for example, only utilising government contracts. How can we minimize these risks? Well, we can predefine the strategy clearly and comprehensively and review it throughout the project appraisal. We can ensure we have synergy throughout the project, checking consistency across all units, and also keeping innovation in small steps. So if you're doing something that the company or your construction firm is not used to doing, let's do innovation, yes, but let's do it in small steps to reduce that risk. We also need to have a thorough understanding of what is the company's risk appetite, which is why it's important to have a senior staff member either on the appraisal team or completing the strategic appraisal. We're asking things like, what projects is the company actually capable of doing? And that is things like geographical, political. The aim is to get a good balance of risk and doing things which the company is good at. In order to complete a directional policy matrix, or DPM, you must identify the main criteria by which the prospects for the sector may be judged as favourable or unfavourable, and those by which a company's position in a sector may be judged to be strong or weak. So let's take a look. If we were to analyse the business sector prospects, favourable in this context means high profit and growth potential for the industry generally. And these criteria are then used to construct separate ratings of sector prospects and of the company's competitive capabilities. And the ratings are then plotted on a matrix, which we're going to complete in a couple of slides' time. So some of the things that you might look at are market sector growth, market quality, material supply if required, and environmental aspects as required. An example of this in construction may be if you require 1 tonne of steel for a project. However, an analysis of the material supply in the sector shows that steel is actually becoming increasingly difficult to get a hold of. That would be something that would be flagged. Equally, when it comes time to do the analysis of the company's competitive capabilities, we are looking at things like market position, the company's production capability, and product research and development outputs. So let's start off with an example. So in this example, we are going to look at the matrix, and on the top of the matrix we have unattractive, average, attractive, and on the left-hand side we have strong, average, and weak. Now we are going to look at a new business example. So this is to help you understand what the DPM is all about. However, in your strategic analysis, keeping in mind we are just looking at one construction project or one project that we are appraising. This example is for a company that's leaning between 2 or 3 different options and they're not sure what is the right strategic move for them. So the DPM matrix has prospects for sector profitability along the top and the company's competitive capabilities on the left-hand side. So in this example company, they're thinking maybe they'll do an electrical and light fitting business. So this construction related business would be selling electrical and light fittings. You might even take a turnkey contract to install electrical accessories in new builds. The profit margin in this business is fairly attractive given the current sector. However, the company would need to train an entirely new team as their current capabilities are weak. So we know here the company's competitive capabilities are weak for this electrical and light fitting business. However, were they to successfully train the team, there would be attractive sector profitability. Let's take a look at another example. So fly ash brick manufacturing, it's an inorganic mineral residue obtained after burning coal, and the demand for units, say, is growing. However, it needs a high minimum investment and many manufacturing machines are available in the domestic and international market. So not only do we have a weak current capability, however, there's also not a lot of sector profitability looking forward given the high volume. Okay, what if we mix it up and decide we want to be a bricklayer? Well, another means of making money in the construction industry that we know is bricklaying services. They're hard to come by. However, if you intend to provide bricklaying services, we know that you need to undergo training. You can't just rock up and start laying bricks. We know that as a bricklayer, it is your responsibility to market your services to players in the construction industry, and going to construction sites, marketing your business. Once your name's out there, there's a high opportunity for sector profitability. However, if no one knows who you are, it's going to be very difficult. So we're in here, we're average, we need some extra training, and it's an average prospect for profit. Okay, well, what about cement block manufacturing or cement manufacturing plant? Well, broadly, you could make, multiple types of cement blocks. You could make solid ones, you could make hollow ones as opportunities, or we could do cement manufacturing. And provided that you have a solid capital base, you could open a cement manufacturing plant. Here, it's looking quite good for both of these items because we know that they are in high demand in the construction industry, and it's very easy to advertise your services. So we are attractive in terms of prospects for profitability, and we also have quite competitive capabilities. So our new business, this company has a history in cement, so they are well placed to work in these areas. We could also then follow this up with cement retailing business. However, while it is a cement related business, so we have a strong competitive capability, it's an average prospect for sector profitability. And I should note these are made up, so this is just purely for an example. If we go on, we've got the tile retailer and installation. We could keep going all day, but we won't. So after reviewing this matrix, or if you were given this matrix, which construction business idea would you recommend for this company? So feel free to pause and have a think. Which business idea would you recommend? And the answer is the cement manufacturing plant or the cement block manufacturing. Probably number one, number two. Why? Attractive profits and strong capabilities. Now let's have a look at a SWOT analysis. And we know that the SWOT analysis is used to assess the company or the project for the company. Now, the key issues in a strategic analysis that we look at are strategy and synergy. We're looking at risk of project versus risk of company. Some of the risks that we might be looking at, we will touch in a second. So we've got strengths, we've got opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. And as we can see, we've highlighted in green here the positives and the strengths. And on the right-hand side of the SWOT analysis are the negative or the weakness points for the strategic analysis. And what we need to be aware of is some textbooks and some readings will use slightly different ways of structuring these four boxes, but they will always have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As we can see, this is the S of SWOT, W of SWOT, O and T. So that's where it gets its name from. So let's have a look. One of the strengths that you might pop down for a SWOT analysis would be, well, look, there's a strong market position in the construction industry and the diversified portfolio expands our revenue base. An opportunity would be, well, look, there's lots of upcoming contracts and this would ensure a steady revenue. We can also strengthen our presence in the renewable energy area, which is something that we have been looking to do. Weaknesses could be something like restricted geographical footprint in Adelaide or reliance on government contracts. So here we have an opportunity or lots of upcoming contracts. However, if they are all government contracts, you don't want to be too reliant on that because you might not win all of them. Threats, well, government spending cutbacks could damage our portfolio. It's a highly competitive market, and we also have to factor in the increasing labour and material costs.